So, hi, Steve.
Hi.
So nice to meeting you here and welcome
Yeah.
to India.
Thank you. It's great. It's the first time I've ever been in Delhi, so I'm very excited.
That's so amazing. Actually, I think I'm very thankful to Pan Macmillan as well to give this
Mhm.
opportunity to the BooksWagon. So, I just want you to tell our readers about yourself a little, since I was very
Mhm.
curious when I get to know that you are into the Jurassic Park movie
Yeah.
consultants. So I think this is the honor if you actually tell about yourself to our readers about your dinosaurs,
Mhm.
things, and about your background a little bit so that our readers get to know.
Yeah, of course. So I'm a paleontologist, which means I'm a scientist who studies fossils, who studies the history of life. And so I dig up dinosaurs for my job, which is fantastic. I teach at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. So I'm from
Yes.
America, but I've lived in Scotland for many years. And so I teach classes and run a lab and have many students. But in addition to that, I write books and I work on films. And so when it comes to dinosaurs and birds and mammals and other fossils, I'm so enthusiastic about them. I love studying them. I love writing about them. And I love spreading that enthusiasm to other people. And that's why I do these books and work on the films like Jurassic World.
So I believe that's why we were so much curious about a Jurassic World.
Mhm.
So now I know why, because you are the main reason.
It's fantastic. I love any time I can spread my love for this science to people around the world. And so I like writing the books a lot. The new book is The Story of Birds. That's just out now. That's why I'm here. But all of these books and the films I really enjoy doing. Jurassic World, I started to work on those films because of these books. So Colin Trevorrow, who is the director of the Jurassic World films, of a few of them, he read The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs.
Oh, amazing.
He sent me an email, just an email I got in my inbox one day from Colin Trevorrow. Yeah, right. So I thought it was a fake email. I thought one of my students maybe was playing a trick on me, but no, it was him. And he said, I read your book. I'm working on the next film. Can we talk? And I'm like, oh my God, okay. So we met up in Edinburgh and he told me, he said, I'm working on the next film. I'd love for you to help me out. I want to put feathers on some of these dinosaurs. We now know a lot of dinosaurs were covered in feathers. That's what I write about in The Story of Birds in the new book. And he said, I want you to help me do it. And I want you to be the new consultant on the series. I said, oh my goodness, sign me up right now. And I've worked on the last few films and it's really fun working with Hollywood people because these are creative geniuses. They're incredible. The directors, the writers, the artists, the actors. These are the most talented, creative people in the world. And I get to sit around talking to them, telling them about dinosaurs.
I think I'm very thankful about this because just because of you, I think I know a bit of the dinosaurs now.
All right, good. Hey, that means I'm doing my job with the books and the films.
And readers, as you know, that Steve's new book is coming here, and we have here right here to know you. So let's start a session with the questionnaires. So my first question for you is, you have traveled the world discovering and naming more than 15 dinosaur species, including the famous Pinocchio Rex. And this is actually my favorite one.
Okay.
What first sparked your fascination with dinosaurs while growing up in the Middle Eastern USA?
Mhm. I've been very lucky to do this job that I do, and how many people get to dig up dinosaurs for their job and get to discover new species and work with people around the world. I've got to travel to so many cool places, India, now being one of them, just because of my job, and it's awesome. I would have never imagined this when I was growing up. So I grew up in the middle part of America. I grew up really in farm country in a small town, about an hour and a half outside of Chicago. In the middle part of the country. And nobody's ever found a dinosaur bone in my home state of Illinois. Never. So that's like my kind of secret, maybe not so secret now since I'm telling you, dream is to find the first dinosaur bone back home. But there were lots of other fossils there, even older fossils, fossil seashells and fossil plants and fossil corals. And when I was a teenager, I became really interested in collecting those fossils at home and then in learning and reading about dinosaurs. So I read a lot of books. I read every book I could find, every book that was in the library, every book that the schools had. And that's how I really got into paleontology, collecting fossils, reading books. And that's why I love writing these books now. And I hope these books give some perspective on what it's like to be a paleontologist and why dinosaurs and the history of life and evolution are so fascinating.
I think that's why we are so much into dinosaurs world that we want to talk about all the time. Since after the Jurassic World, people are very curious about the dinosaurs, about their historic things and everything. But what's your exactly first dream before this?
Ah, you know, when I was very, very young, I was not interested in science at all. It was my least favorite class in school. My dream was to do what my dad did. You know, he was a lawyer in our small hometown, and I wanted to do that. Now, one of my brothers has done that dream. Instead, I became obsessed with science eventually because my other brother, Chris, loved dinosaurs, and he was a Jurassic Park super fan.
Oh.
And I don't know how many times he watched it. It was always on TV at home, and he had every Jurassic Park toy, all the posters, all the books. And so it was kind of his dream initially to be a paleontologist. Then I took that dream as well. I guess I took it from him. But he went on to do other things. He went on to study history and work in museums. He's a writer now. So it's funny how life works out. But we were all growing up in this small town in the middle of farm country. Here I am in India, talking about dinosaurs, talking about working on Hollywood blockbuster films, and it's a fantastic life.
That's really nice to get to know that your dream came from your brother.
It did. And you know what? He's okay with it. I've asked for his forgiveness many times. I'm sorry I took this dream from you. But I think when I came into fossils as my obsession, he was starting to get out of it a little bit. He was starting to move on to other things. He was getting a bit older. So in any case, here we are. Sorry, Chris. But you know, I've apologized so many times.
But I still love you, Chris, so that we have Steve now here. So let's move to the second questions. You have written both children and adults, and I think I'm very curious about, because you're actually right up for the adults and for the children as well. So how does your approach to storytelling change when you're writing popular science for a general audience versus young readers?
Yeah, it's a challenge, but I love it. I mean, I love writing, and most of my job is writing. Frankly, most of the time I spend every day is doing some kind of writing. I'm just constantly in front of my computer, for better or for worse. But a lot of my academic job at the university, you know, I'm writing up our scientific discoveries, writing that for academic journals and academic books. And I do enjoy that kind of writing, but I like this kind of writing better for the public at large. But writing these adult books and writing kids' books is very different. And when it comes to, you know, these adult books, I just try to remember the books that I really enjoyed when I was a teenager, and which books connected with me and the types of stories that connected. For the kids' books, it's really my wife Anne, who's much better than me at this. She's a children's author, and she's done a few books recently on dinosaurs. So seeing the way that she does it helps me a lot now, because she was a teacher for many years, a primary school teacher. So she really knows what kids are interested in. And I have a 6-year-old at home, so I have a bit of an insight into this as well. But my wife's the one who really knows, you know, the type of stories that kids like, the types of facts, how to give facts without giving too many facts, how to make the connections, you know, with people that are younger and don't have as much knowledge of the world, but have so much enthusiasm, have so much just natural enjoyment of dinosaurs. And so for me, when I'm doing kids' books, I just try to keep it really simple and try to be fun and try to make it something that I think my wife would approve of as a children's writer, and that my 6-year-old boy would like if he was reading the book himself.
So I should say that, what's your favorite book around the children's stories?
Oh, my favorite children's book, or my favorite book. This is a great question. So, I mean, I love reading. I've always been a pretty voracious reader. I think most people that write are. I mean, hard to write if you don't read. As far as children's books, I got to say, there have been a few books that when my boy was really little that we read a lot, that I just loved, that really connected with him. And there were a few Scottish books, you know, but one that is like the all-time classic, which I just think is awesome, is the Hungry Caterpillar. It's great. We love that. As far as, books for, science books or books for an older audience, when I was younger, and even now, I read a lot of books by people like Stephen Jay Gould, is the great evolutionary biologist, great writer on evolution, great essayist. I mean, he wrote hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of essays that he compiled into books. And I absolutely love those books. As far as other types of storytelling, I've always liked to read books on history and books on culture and books on travel, and some fiction as well. I read less fiction, but I've always loved books by people like John Steinbeck. These stories of people, real people in the world, confronting the world around them, going on journeys, going on a quest, having to deal with something. So those are the kind of things that maybe I channel a little bit when I'm writing.
Oh, that's amazing. So, The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs became an international bestseller.
Yep, that's this one, the green one with the blood red T-Rex on the cover, yes.
So what inspired you to continue the story by focusing on birds as the surviving dinosaurs?
Yeah. So when I wrote The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs, it was published in 2018, so it's been out a little while, and I was just overjoyed that people were interested in it, and I think it hit the market at a good time. There hadn't really been many books about dinosaurs for adults, which seems crazy. There's so many kids' books, but not so many books for adults. So I think it came at a good time, and it got some interest, and it hit some of the bestseller lists, and it was amazing to see it published in places like India. Oh my goodness, I had never been to India. It just blew my mind that this thing I wrote is now out in the world. And it got, a lot of different translations into, 20, 25 different languages. And I just was stunned by it. And that gave me the opportunity to write another book, which was The Rise and Reign of the Mammals. And, that was a lot of fun because mammals, this is our group. This is our story. Where did we come from? So that was cool. And I got to write about saber-toothed tigers. That's a saber-toothed tiger on the cover there, and woolly mammoths and all these awesome fossil mammals. But I wanted to come back to dinosaurs, and that's what I did in The Story of Birds. And I really wanted to tell this story of how today's birds are really, truly dinosaurs. They are dinosaurs. They evolved from dinosaurs. They're part of the dinosaur family tree. It's an idea that I think a lot of people have heard of somewhere. Okay, a bird's, they're dinosaurs, or a chicken is related to T-Rex or whatever, but you see in the Jurassic World films now, there's some feathers on some of the dinosaurs. So I think the idea is breaking through a little bit, but I still think it's a pretty crazy idea for a lot of people, that the sparrow, at your bird feeder, or the robin, or the thrush, or whatever bird you're looking at, that's a dinosaur. And I mean, it looks nothing like T-Rex, nothing like Brontosaurus. But they are dinosaurs, and that's what I wanted to do here. I wanted to tell that story of how birds came to be, how some dinosaurs evolved feathers and wings and started to fly and became birds, and then the amazing things birds have done over the last 150 million years since the first birds evolved from dinosaurs. And when it comes down to it, though, my academic specialty as a scientist really is these meat-eating dinosaurs that gave rise to birds. So when I did my PhD back in America, in New York, my PhD dissertation was on building a big family tree of the meat-eating dinosaurs and birds, and seeing what the closest relatives of birds were. So as an academic scientist, this really is my specialty, and I felt like it's about time to write a popular book on the thing I actually know most.
Yeah. I think I really like your energy about the dinosaurs.
I love it. How can you not be interested in dinosaurs? How can you not be enthused, and how can you not get worked up? I'm sure a lot of you watching know exactly what I mean. And I'm so lucky to get to do this as a job. So how can I not be excited?
So now I want you to give me like 2 lines on your new book.
Yep. There's 2 things I think in this book, 2 main things. First is birds are dinosaurs. And I tell that story. How do we know it? What's the evidence for it? What does it mean? The second thing is birds have been around for a long time. 150 million years there have been birds flapping and flying with their wings. And they've done incredible things. There have once been penguins the size of gorillas. There were elephant birds that stood 3 meters tall. There were terror birds, demon ducks. So there's a whole history of birds that we don't know today, but we know from fossils. So those are the 2 main aspects of the book.
So I wanted to know something like this is I'm very curious about. So do you see the story of birds As a companion or as a continuation of the story, is a journey, you begin with the dinosaurs.
Yeah, so it's a good question. I think so when I wrote The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs, there's one chapter in that book about birds. And I just felt it wasn't enough. I felt like I did the best I could in telling that story, but it was just one chapter. So I see the story of birds as a continuation of the rise and fall of the dinosaurs, really. I mean, there's differences, of course. I've learned a lot. That Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs was my first book for adults. I've now done 3 of them. I learn all the time just working with my editors, getting feedback from readers. By the way, if you read the books, I'm easy to find online, okay? So please do reach out. I love getting messages, emails, or DMs from people that have read the books. But I've learned a lot, so I think the storytelling is maybe a little bit crisper, maybe a little bit more fun in the story of birds. But in any case, it is a continuation of the dinosaur story. It's the dinosaurs reaching the modern day. That's what that book is.
This book? Oh, that's really amazing.
So that's it. It's the legacy of T-Rex and Brontosaurus and Triceratops, those famous dinosaurs. I should say in India here, there are so many important dinosaurs. Some of the very oldest dinosaurs are from India. Some of the very biggest dinosaurs, ones that were heavier.
Name some.
So back in the Triassic period, there were a bunch of small theropod dinosaurs and sauropodomorph dinosaurs, those are the technical names, living in India. This is about 230 million years ago. That's when all the land was gathered together as Pangaea, the single supercontinent. So India was a part of that. India was pretty far south back then, actually far south of the equator. And it was the cradle of the early evolution of dinosaurs. The origin of dinosaurs is very much a story of India. That's amazing. Then in the Cretaceous period, there were these enormous long-necked dinosaurs, some of the biggest ones that ever lived, these big sauropod dinosaurs, heavier than a jet airplane. Their eggs are found in India. There's fossil nesting grounds of these giant dinosaurs. There's fossils of the meat eaters that were eating them, dinosaurs like Rajasaurus, which is a fierce meat eater with big sharp teeth. So there are so many dinosaurs in India, and there are more being found. But we need more young people in India to study paleontology. That's what I hope, and I hope the books can help. But to circle back, though, really the story of birds is there's the legacy of T-Rex and Triceratops and those famous dinosaurs that lived so many millions of years ago. Yes, all of them died when the asteroid hit at the end of the Cretaceous. But some survived, and those are the ones with feathers and wings. They were the birds, and they've reached all the way to the present day. And I think it's remarkable that if we look at the world around us today, look out the windows, you will see real, live dinosaurs. I think that's incredible.
So I think now I know why readers should read this book, because they should know about what is the mammal and the birds they are.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I do hope to convey with these books, is how our modern world has come to be. When we look at the world around us and we see all these birds and all these mammals, and we look at ourselves and we are a mammal, what's the long history? The history over hundreds of millions of years of asteroids and volcanoes and continents coming together and breaking apart, and rising and falling seas, and times of global warming and times of ice ages. That story, that incredible story, that is what built the world of today.
I think now I want a little bit of this story now.
Well, it's a story of constant change. That's really it. When the very first dinosaurs, the very first mammals were living, well more than 200 million years ago, they were living on a supercontinent. All the land was gathered together as one. And then over time, that continent's broken apart. And as it's broken apart, there have been fierce volcanic eruptions that have caused climate change and caused big extinctions. But they've also provided opportunities for new species to evolve and to adapt and to change. And today's mammals and today's birds, which came from the dinosaurs, came out of that, of just millions of years of having to adapt and change and be resilient. So I think there's a lesson in the history of life, that life is strong and life can adapt and life is resilient, and we are a product of that evolution.
So true, Shrestri. So with the next question, I would like to know, like, having worked with the international team and conducted like field work across the world, which fossil discovery most reshaped your understanding of how birds evolved from dinosaurs?
This is a great question. You mentioned this dinosaur earlier, Pinocchio Rex, that's a nickname, by the way. The formal scientific name is Chongosaurus sinensis, but I think you know why it needs a nickname. That's from China. And I was very lucky. It was a construction worker that found that dinosaur digging the foundation for a building. And I was asked to study that dinosaur by some friends of mine in China. But around the same time, I was asked to help study another dinosaur, which was found in northern China by a farmer. And this dinosaur was much smaller. Pinocchio Rex was a big tyrannosaur. It was a cousin of T-Rex. It would have been, 10 meters long or something like that. It would have weighed several tons. This second dinosaur, discovered by the farmer, was small. It could have fit not quite on this table, but you could balance it on the table here. It's in a slab of rock, of limestone rock, gray-colored rock, and the bones are beautiful. They're chocolate brown colored bones. And those bones are all connected. It's like a perfect skeleton. And surrounding the skeleton are feathers, fossil feathers, real feathers. And there's even wings on the arms of this dinosaur.
Okay.
And so this is a dinosaur we called Zhenwanlong. We named it after the man who ran the local museum, who secured it from the farmers. This is a raptor dinosaur. It's one of the closest cousins of Velociraptor, which you'll know from Jurassic Park. And this dinosaur had feathers, it had wings, it really looked like a bird. This was one of the dinosaurs that was one of the closest cousins, even ancestors of birds. And in seeing that fossil for the first time, after the farmer brought it to the museum and we walked in the room and we could see all of those feathers on this raptor dinosaur, that just made the connection so clear with me. Yes, of course today's birds are dinosaurs. There's a dinosaur with feathers and wings. And that was a magical experience.
I think after you to create some kind of imagination on this table regarding the dinosaur, I can actually see it now.
Well, that's what I try to do. And, in the books, I try to tell stories of how we discover fossils, how we know what we know, how we do the science. But I also try to tell some fictional little stories based on fossils of the dinosaurs and the birds and the mammals in their own world. And it's so much fun just to imagine what it would have been like. What would it have been like 100 million years ago?
Yeah.
What would it have been like when the climate was so different, when there were big volcanoes erupting, if there was a T-Rex staring you down? I love just thinking about what that could be.
So, moving with the next question, you have been a part of the high-profile scientific collaborations.
Mm-hmm.
And how important is global collaboration in modern paleontology?
Global collaboration is everything in paleontology now, and in so many different disciplines. But in paleontology, we're really in the middle of a golden age of new fossil discoveries. And somewhere around the world, there is somebody finding a totally new species of dinosaur about once a week on average. So every year, there's about 50 new dinosaur species discovered. Not a new fossil, not a new skeleton, no, a new species, a totally new type of dinosaur. And this is incredible how many fossils are being found, and it's all because there are so many more people looking for dinosaurs and working together and doing this around the world. I mean, it used to be that really paleontology was a science where, in the US and Canada and Western Europe, you had a few paleontologists, but there weren't that many around the world. Some countries, India, China, would have paleontologists, but not a lot. But that's all changed in the last few decades. There are so many young people. And as countries like India, China, Mongolia, South Africa, Brazil, Argentina, these enormous growing countries where there are so many young people going to university, studying what they want to study, going out, trying to find their own dinosaurs. That's what's driven this exciting time. But you never do it alone. Who can go and dig up a brontosaurus by themselves? Come on. So you're always working with teams.
Yes.
And that's a fundamental part of it. It makes it really fun as well. It's just a great thing to be out with your friends, with your buddies, digging up a dinosaur out in the desert. You're all sweating, you're all working together, you're all tired, but you're all excited. It's awesome. And paleontology would not work without these kinds of collaborations.
Yes, correct. So true. So what's your exact favorite collaboration? Any specific?
It is so hard to say what my favorite is. I've been so fortunate to work with a lot of good friends in China over the years to study some of these dinosaurs that have been found by farmers and construction workers. I've worked a lot across Europe as well. in places like Romania and Poland and Portugal and Lithuania. I've had a lot of good friends that I've worked with there. I've done a lot of work in America back home, and I've worked a lot in New Mexico in the Southwest. And I talk about New Mexico actually in all three of the books because there's so many interesting discoveries there. And I work a lot with a good friend of mine, Tom Williamson, who's just retired as the curator of the museum in Albuquerque, the big museum. And I tell the story in The Story of Birds, how it was Tom's kids and his son Taylor in particular that made one of the most important fossil discoveries ever in the history of bird paleontology, one of the most important bird fossils ever found. And this is when they were, Taylor and his twin brother Ryan, they were like 12 years old. And they were bored one Sunday morning, and they're like, "What should we do, Dad? What should we do?" and Tom was like, "Well, why don't we go look for some fossils? I know a place you can find some fossils." And they went out, and lo and behold, Taylor finds this tiny skeleton, really fragile. All the bones, they're just minuscule, and they're hollow inside, paper-thin walls. And it's the bones of a bird that lived not long after the asteroid that killed the other dinosaurs. This was one of the birds basically that survived and then blossomed in a new world. And that collaboration with Tom and with his kids and with a broader group of paleontologists, that one has always meant a lot to me. I've spent so much time in New Mexico. It's a beautiful part of the world. You're in the desert, you're in the Badlands, you're in the mountains. There are tons of dinosaur fossils. And then you come to the extinction layer when the asteroid hit, the dinosaurs disappear except for birds. And now you have all these mammal fossils, and you have even primates, our relatives. So that has always been very special to do field work in that area, to camp out, be out in the Badlands. You're out there with your friends. You're cooking spicy food every night, New Mexican style food with a lot of chili peppers. And it's great. It's awesome. And, as much as I love being here, being anywhere, if there's one place that I could be, it might be the Badlands in New Mexico looking for fossils.
That's I think that's why my question resonate about. Like, I would like to know what's your exactly favorite place where you actually find all these bones and your dreams digging out from the sand.
And New Mexico is one. The other place I of course have to mention is in Scotland, where I live now and where I've lived for many years. We look for fossils on the Isle of Skye, which is this beautiful island off the west coast of Scotland. Very cold, very wet, very windy, very misty. We actually find fossils in many places there, but there's one site where there's the ruins of a 14th century castle casting a shadow on us as we look for fossils. It's incredible. But we find great stuff. My students always make the most incredible discoveries. I wish I could say I make the best discoveries, but it's always my students. And one of our students, Amelia Penny, a few years back, her first time ever looking for fossil bones, what does she find? She finds the skeleton of a pterodactyl.
Oh, wow.
2.5 meter wingspan, big head with a beak, with teeth, 170 million years old. And that's probably the most incredible fossil that we've ever found in Scotland. So I love working there on the Isle of Skye in my new adopted homeland of Scotland.
I would like to know, when you actually find out your first fossil, how was your experience? I would like to know some kind of a story around it.
It's I obviously like talking, you can tell. But this is something I find hard to explain, really, like the magic of finding a fossil. There's just something kind of indescribable about it. It's hard to put into words. I don't remember the very first time I found a fossil. It was probably when I was really young. But I remember the first time with my family that we were looking for fossils. We were on a little family vacation, and there was a place, it was near one of the big rivers in America, where there are a lot of fossil corals and like clam shells and stuff that's much older than the dinosaurs. And I was not even into paleontology at that time. But I remember just picking up these fossils and thinking, my goodness, this thing is 400 million years old, 400 million. Like, the sense of time is just incredible. And even today, now, when I find a fossil, it's still a magical experience, even though it's my job and I've found so many fossils over the years. And every time I find a fossil, I'm the first person to see it. This is something that's millions of years old. It's a clue from prehistory, and I'm the first person to see it. And that's magic. But what's also magic is that anybody can find a fossil. You don't need to have a PhD. You don't need to be a professor. As I've mentioned, it's oftentimes construction workers, farmers that find the best fossils when they're out digging or out working on their land. That's what's great about paleontology. I think it'd be really hard to be like an amateur nuclear physicist or something, but anybody can look for fossils. It's a very democratic science. And so I encourage any of you out there, if you're interested at all in dinosaurs and prehistory, go and look for fossils. Go online. There's a lot of references online. Get a map. Make sure you know whose land you might be on, plan it out. But then just go and look and see what you find. And it is magical.
I think all the readers are actually ready and to find out all the magic out there. But for them, actually, I would like to question for the next question. Like, you have been part of the high-profile collaborations, as we mentioned. So you have appeared in documentaries like T-Rex Autopsy. How important do you think visual media and television are in bringing paleontology to wider audiences?
I think television's very important. Of course, the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World films have done so much. Those films are blockbusters. They are released all around the world. There are tens of millions of people, if not hundreds of millions of people that see those films, not just in America, not just in Scotland, where I live now, but all around the world. There's nothing more powerful, I think, than a blockbuster film to reach a big audience. But television as well. There's so many important television shows about dinosaurs. When I was really getting into fossils as a teenager, I watched Walking with Dinosaurs, the BBC series. They showed it in America a little bit after they showed it in the UK. And that was incredible. That blew my mind because this was like a nature documentary. It was like David Attenborough out on the Galapagos or something, but it was dinosaurs. I mean, it was all digital. It was all computer generated. But it felt like you were watching real animals in their real environment. I think that's the power of the visual media, because these dinosaurs, these were awesome animals. T-Rex was the size of a bus. Some of these long-necked dinosaurs were the size of jet airplanes. You had dinosaurs with spikes and horns and plates on their backs and duckbills and tail clubs and feathers and all kinds of fantastic features. Visually, they were striking and stunning. And I think showing them on screen, in film, in art, television documentaries, what have you, that's how people really connect. Which makes it hard to write about it because words don't do them justice. You need to see them.
Correct. I think that's why we actually connect with the Jurassic World, because we're actually able to see all kind of the dinosaurs in them. But still, how was your actually experience in the documentaries with the T-Rex Autopsy?
Yeah, so we did this film, this documentary for National Geographic. This was more than 10 years ago now. It's one of the most fun things I've ever done. It was called T-Rex Autopsy, and it really was like we were recreating an autopsy, vets and scientists looking at a dead animal and trying to understand how it died and how it lived its life. And so as part of that, we built a life-size model of a T-Rex. Now, I didn't build it. There was a whole crew of technicians that know how to build things, but I advised on it. I helped make sure it was accurate. So this is like a 13-meter-long model, and inside there are bones, and there's muscles, and there's internal organs. There's the stomach and the heart and the lungs and everything, and then there's skin on the outside, there's scales, there's feathers, there's blood. So when you cut it open, it would bleed. Now, the blood was corn syrup, like you might bake with, but with red food coloring to make it look like blood. But it's very sticky. So then we were on film, cutting it up and looking at the skin, looking at the feathers. Oh, what's the lung look like? Let's take the lung out. It was television. It was dramatized. No, we didn't have a real T-Rex in front of us, but that model was so accurate, so scientifically accurate, that I think it gave the best view of what it would actually be like if we were confronted with a T-Rex and we're trying to understand what it was like as a real animal. That was a lot of fun, but very sticky. I had to take showers for days afterwards to get that sticky corn syrup blood off of me and out of my hair. That's why I have no hair left. It all came out. No.
But I think, come on, Steve, you are a big deal. I don't think so. Okay, like you look very handsome.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, it's
I think-
nice to hear now that I'm in my 40s and the hairline's receding.
I love your books and I
Thank you.
like your writing and you're so
Thank
handsome.
you.
I think this is like,
Well, I'm very flattered. I need to come to India more often, clearly.
so you have to meet me wherever you are actually visiting here. Okay, so what are the biggest misconceptions people still have about dinosaurs and birds that you hope this book helps correct them?
There are still a lot of misconceptions out there about dinosaurs. And some of these misconceptions are the ones that were around back in the late 80s and the early 90s when I was in school. And I remember that a lot of the books, like in the library at school, would have these pictures of dinosaurs. And they were just they just look pretty dumb, okay? I mean, they were these big animals. They were dragging their tails. They weren't moving very fast. They were dull, dim-witted, just kind of sitting around, waiting to go extinct. It just seemed like there wasn't a lot of excitement about them. Yeah, they were big, they were kind of scary, but they weren't that smart. They weren't that active. But we now know that's not true. Actually, many dinosaurs were quite smart. We can CAT scan fossil skulls and use the x-rays to see inside the brain cavity and actually figure out how big their brains were. We do a lot of this work at the University of Edinburgh in my lab, my students and I. We know a lot of dinosaurs could move fast now. People have made computer models using the same software animators use for films to actually make these models of dinosaurs and test how fast they can move. We know a lot of dinosaurs grew quickly. So this image of dinosaurs as these lumbering beasts from prehistory isn't really true. They were a lot smarter and active and more energetic and more dynamic and more interesting and more successful than a lot of people used to think. I mean, they lived for over 150 million years. They survived so many things, and they live on today in terms of birds. And that's probably the single biggest misconception, and that is that dinosaurs are dead, that they're extinct, that they're gone. They're not. Birds live on. Okay, T-Rex is gone. Triceratops is gone. Yes, the big ones died when the asteroid hit. But birds live on, and they carry on the dinosaur legacy. And today's birds, they have dinosaur blood in their veins. They carry dinosaur DNA. They are dinosaurs.
I think I'm 2 days old that I get to know that our birds are from dinosaurs. Like now they are actually moving forward with the dinosaur legacy.
I know, and I know it's a weird idea. And when and if you're having, for people out there, that either are listening to this or maybe read the books, if you're having a hard time wrapping your head around this idea that birds are dinosaurs, I like to say, well, think about bats. What are bats? Well, bats are mammals.
Correct.
They're mammals, like we are mammals. I mean, they have hair, they feed their babies milk. They're mammals because they're part of the mammal family tree. They evolved from other mammals. They're just one peculiar type of mammal that got small and grew wings and started to fly. And birds are the dinosaur version of that. They're one of many groups of dinosaurs, but they're this peculiar group that got small, grew wings, developed the ability to fly. And all the other dinosaurs died out, leaving only birds. And that's why it seems so peculiar. But they are dinosaurs. Birds are absolutely dinosaurs. And I hope that, the book, the Story of Birds, can help bring that idea to, a bit of a wider audience.
Correct. Since I have got the lots of insights from you, I really want my readers to get all the insights from this new book exclusively for you. But before that, let's start with another question for the Steve, which is readers in countries rich in bird biodiversity, like India, encounter birds daily.
Yes.
How can understanding their dinosaur origins change the way we see these familiar creatures?
India is such a wonderful place for birds. I'm just having even just in Delhi, where we're chatting now. I mean, in the big city, one of the biggest cities in the world, there's all kinds of cool birds. And I would love to be out in the countryside. So the next time I come to India, I'm going to have to do this, go bird watching. You have some of the greatest bird diversity on the planet. A lot of us love birds. A lot of us love bird watching. A lot of us keep birds as pets. We have a fascination with birds. Birds are also very threatened today. I mean, climate and environmental change is really having a hard effect on a lot of birds. And so what I hope is that by understanding the dinosaur legacy of birds, we can appreciate all the things they went through over hundreds of millions of years of evolution to reach the modern day. Let's conserve birds. Let's not let birds go extinct. You know, there have been many species of birds that have gone extinct that we've watched in real time. I mean, these are animals that have evolved over hundreds of millions of years. Let's not allow this.
Example like sparrow. Like nowadays, it's very less, especially in India.
Is that right? Yeah. And I mean, there's examples in Britain. There's examples back home in America with a passenger pigeon in North America that 200 years ago, it was basically the most common bird on the continent. There were billions of them. And then within a single human lifetime, it's gone. The whole thing is extinct. So we can change the environment so quickly as humans that some birds can really be harmed. So I hope that by appreciating everything birds have gone through, we have a bit more respect for them. At the same time, I think we also have to give birds credit for persevering, for enduring so much. And I think that we, need to have faith that as long as we work to conserve birds, the birds will be fine, because birds are survivors. Birds have endured asteroids, volcanoes, all these extinctions over time. So as long as we are mindful of that, I really do think that birds will endure, because they're such great survivors of nature. And they're so beautiful. That's the other thing about birds. Yeah, they're so incredibly beautiful. And that beauty comes out of their dinosaur origins, which is incredible to me.
That's so nice to know you. So after spending years studying dinosaurs and now birds, has the way you personally observe birds in everyday life changed?
It has. It absolutely has. When I was really young, I have to admit, I was kind of afraid of birds. It's kind of embarrassing actually to say now. But
I'm actually not able to see you. Like you're actually like afraid of birds, and now you're actually writing about them.
I know. So I've grown a lot as a person. But I remember when I was young, a few times like a bird would get into the house and it would just be flying around like mad, and it just kind of spooked me. This animal with wings flapping around my face, and I didn't like it. That's when I was really young. Now I've become so used to birds, and I've become used to studying birds and writing about birds, that I just find joy when I see an interesting new bird. And I end the story of birds with a bit of a story of when my son was really young. When I was in the kitchen making him breakfast, I see this flash of gold go right across the window. And then it flashes back, and I look closely, and it's a bird. It's a tiny bird, just about the size of a golf ball. This bird called a goldcrest, which is the smallest bird in Europe. It weighs as much as a single grape. And it was beautiful. It was a mother bird. It had a nest. She had a nest in this bush, and she was getting bugs for her babies while I was getting breakfast for my son. So these moments now are more special to me when I encounter a bird doing something interesting or in an interesting place, just because I've studied them so much. I've come to appreciate how smart birds are, how resilient they are, how they're similar to us in a lot of ways. There's this mother bird caring for her babies, getting them food to bring back to the nest, just what I'm about to do for my son. And moments like that, I think, are very beautiful.
I think that's where human resonates, that we actually belong from nature.
We do, and we like to think of ourselves as separate from nature, but no, really, we come from the mammals, and the mammals are one of many groups that have evolved over time, and so we are part of nature, so let's respect it and conserve it.
Now, Steve, I want you to say something about your book, just in like 4 lines. So like our readers get curious, and they start reading about the dinosaurs.
Yeah, so I would say for any of my books, these books try to bring the past to life. The world of the dinosaurs, our mammal ancestors, the birds that evolved from dinosaurs. Life is old. Life has changed so much over time, and so many of the species we see around us today have this deep legacy. And that's the story I try to tell in these books, along with the story of how we as scientists discover these fossils and learn about these remarkable animals.
So readers, here we go. We have a lots of subjects and lots of departments here for the dinosaurs. Since we have the big deal Steve here, so got the insights about the dinosaurs. And I am so glad, Steve, that you gave us the greatest chance to have a word with you about the dinosaurs, about your life. And I think about the nature. I think I learned a lot today.
Oh, good. Well, thank you. And thanks for all you do to get books like these into the hands of readers. Because when we write books, We just hope that people will take notice. We hope that people will read them. So everybody in the book world, the publishing world, the bookshop world, the book selling world, it's so special to us because you guys make it so that these books reach people. So thank you.
so much.
I'm Steve Brusatte, paleontologist. I dig up dinosaurs and I write about dinosaurs and other extinct creatures in these books. I'm very excited, very happy my books are available through BooksWagon. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the books.